Hi, welcome to another episode of TinkChat today. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that Eugene is not beside me today, and we have Nick, who's actually from the film industry, who's come here to, I guess, talk about the workflow and what he does in the film industry.
Cool.
So I guess I'll hand it over to you because you know yourself better than I know you. So.
Yeah, I work in the film industry as an art director, a model builder, and a 3D designer.
Okay.
So pretty much anything to do with the design and construction of film sets. So that can be on stage or on location or a variety of different things. But yeah, anything from the initial design of those sets to actual construction of them. So I see it through from the very beginning to the very end. And I've had a Tinkerine 3D printer for quite some time now. I've had a couple of them actually.
Couple of them.
And one of our big things that we use them for in film is in our pre-production phase when we're still designing all the sets and things like that, is we always do scale models. And so 3D printing has become pretty much standard for helping do model building when we're doing those initial models as representations of our sets, because we'll do the scale version, at half-inch scale or whatever, in order for everybody to get on board with how we're going to lay out the set and the stage or the different elements. And 3D printing is amazing because back in 5 or 6 years ago, most people just made it out of foam, foam board, and cardboard. Very simple for the most part, with a printed floor plan and printed elevations and things like that. And then with 3D printing, we're now able to get into a lot more detail, which is awesome. And if there's a cool set piece like a chandelier or something like that, we can 100% just put that in there, and everybody has an idea that it's going to be there. And when people are planning out shots and how things are going to go, it's like, okay, well, let's remember that we have all these intricate little details that you normally wouldn't get. Or be able to represent in a small scale version. So 3D printing is perfect for things like that.
So I'm guessing 3D printing actually shorten a lot of your workflow.
You know what? The funny thing is, I don't think it really has shortened it, because people ask for all the little extra details now.
Now the extra. Okay.
Whereas before, we would just be like, okay, well, here's a simple cardboard cutout of it, and now it's more like, okay, well, we have to actually put these things in now.
Yeah, they want the actual details in every single bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's probably the number one thing I use it for, but it's kind of funny now we've started using them for actual, as 3D printers get bigger and bigger, we actually use them for pieces of sets, little detailed, panels or things like that. We can actually 3D print them. And
so
put them into the sets.
So I guessing from what you just said is parts that come off the 3D printer, minimum post-processing, you use it on the set right away.
The ones that we're physically going to use on a set, there will be a lot of post-processing. The stuff for model building, we don't really do any post-processing because, again, it's just like a facsimile of what, the set detail or piece is actually going to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So whenever it's going to be on camera, though, there will definitely be post-processing. PLA especially does not paint very well. I'm sure you guys know that.
Yeah.
So we do things like epoxy resin coat, and then and then our paint team will give it its final paint job, and then it goes on to the actual set. So that's kind of new. That was not something that people did a lot, but because 3D printing is becoming more and more standard, and it allows us to, really control it right up until it's on the set instead of sending it off to a vendor and then getting it back. It's made things better that way. Yeah.
So do you actually have any background with designing animation when you first came into this job? Or?
I came into film with an art background, but not specifically 3D design or anything like that. It's kind of funny. I'm one of those people where I was a photographer first, graphic designer second, and then kind of came into film with those two skill sets.
Yeah.
And then it just evolved.
So you were actually there from the start to the end where's there's that usual, I guess, weird transition.
Well, there's a lot, especially with film, there's a lot of people figuring out what the hell they want to do in film.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of that because there's so many different things that you can do. I thankfully, had the art background, so I knew I for the most part, I knew I wanted to be in something art related, which is, graphic design and things like that. But then I encountered my first 3D printer on a movie called the Warcraft movie, or it's got some weird name now, but it was the Warcraft movie, and that was done, I guess, almost 10 years ago now here in Vancouver. And we had a huge model making department. And we built scale versions of pretty much all our sets because they were very intricate and detailed, and there was a lot of conversation on how that was all gonna work. So that was when I encountered my first 3D printer, and I was like, this is awesome, I want to know more about this. And so I started just kind of figuring that out, and then slowly teaching myself 3D.
So you think there was a very steep curve to learning about 3D printing, or? I think
it's pretty steep. It really depends on your ultimate purpose. I know a lot of people that have been like, oh, I need to get a 3D printer so I can print whatever I want. And then it's like, well, you also need to learn 3D software. So I've seen that a lot. So I think for people like me, it wasn't too bad, or already, like, people like who are already 3D designers in some way or another, industrial design or just whatever, set design, whatever it might be. I think for them, not so bad, because they can output 3D files, and then you run them through a slicer, and it's like no big deal. For other people who think that you can just 3D print anything from your brain, it's very steep. And I've seen a few people who like buy a printer and then don't go very far with it. But for the most part, I would say if you're into an artistic field and you're very good with computers, I don't think it's too bad. But there's a lot of people out there that think it's super easy, and it's not. And especially troubleshooting. Troubleshooting 3D printers is not easy.
That's something that I see a lot at work.
Yes, 100%.
What type of designing software do you use right now then?
Right now I primarily use Rhino. We do a lot of drafting in our work, which means we have to produce pretty detailed construction drawings and things like that, ultimately, to get things built. So Rhino is really great because you can do great 3D modeling that is pretty much 3D print ready. And then we're also able to do our drafting and for construction and things like that. So I use Rhino and ZBrush because I've gotten into organic modeling and things like that, and ZBrush is great for that, artistic modeling. So ZBrush, used to use Blender a little bit, but then kind of haven't touched that in quite some time. But I know Blender is pretty good for designing for 3D printing as well. I would say primarily ZBrush and Rhino these days.
That's actually very interesting because I know some schools right now are actually they get their students learning on these programs already, like Rhino and ZBrush.
I know Rhino's pretty well used at Emily Carr these days. I think most design studios as well are using Rhino in some way or another.
Because then that's just interesting, seeing how all these students are going to get their experience already with using it.
Well, I've had some friends that have gone to Emily Carr, and they have lots of 3D printers, and they do a lot of different and one of their primary pieces of software that they use for their 3D printers, which I've seen are Tinkerines, but I know they have a bunch of different ones. They use Rhino. So I thought that was pretty cool because I think like when I first got into the film industry, nobody knew what Rhino was. It was very it was for industrial designers and a few other people.
I think first when 3D printing got introduced, I don't think a lot of people knew what to do with this technology.
100%.
It was just and which is why it really got, I guess it got stored in the cupboard for a reason, for a while before actually people recognize the worth of it.
100%. It's the growing pains, I think, with any emerging technology. And 10 years ago, nobody was really using 3D printing. Desktop 3D printing was in its infancy.
Definitely.
I mean, that's when you guys probably started, was probably about 10 years ago now, right?
If you count back, I think we've been public for around 67 years. So
Excuse me?
Yeah, we've been a public company for around
Six
67 years
okay,
now, I
okay.
think.
Yeah, I thought you said 67. I was like,
Oh, no, no, 67, 67, yeah.
it's funny
Yeah,
because yeah, I do hear with like CNC technology and things
yeah,
like that. That has been around since the 80s, and
yeah.
even some apparently some sort of 3D printing software. But it's like it's
Hmm.
once it transitioned to be accessible to people where you could have it in a desktop thing is when it exploded.
Yeah,
So very exciting to see where it is
yeah.
nowadays.
So how many printers do you have, and like, is it more than one type?
Yeah, I have a lot of different types. I have two Tinkerine 3D printers, Daido Pros,
Mm-hmm.
which I love because they're one of the more
Mm-hmm.
reliable ones.
Mm-hmm.
I can usually just set up something, leave it overnight, and
Yeah.
it'll be ready in the morning, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. I have several Creality ones. I've got a CR10S Pro, which is nice. It's I guess their new larger model.
Okay.
Does about like 12 by 12 by 16
Yeah.
inch, which
So
is
just
great.
a bigger build space.
Bigger build space, and it's
Mhm.
great for that. So we can actually build like bigger things that are gonna physically go on set after we
Mhm.
resin coat
Yeah.
them and things like
Yeah.
that. So that's definitely where I found that in film things got way more useful is when I was able to build bigger things.
Yeah.
And then I have another Creality, which is the old version of the CR10, I think. Yeah, whatever the original
Mhm.
CR10 was. I have a small resin printer because I wanted to dabble in resin
Mhm.
printing, which
Yeah.
is interesting, but it has its own pains, as we all
Uh-huh.
know. So I have an Anycubic Photon. I got a 3-in-1 little one.
Yeah.
That's called a Snap Maker, which is a
Uh-huh.
CNC machine, 3D printer, and laser etcher / scanner.
Yeah.
Because again, it was more about
Yeah.
like learning CAM software and things
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's it for 3D printers right now. Yeah.
Wow, that's
like
actually
5 or 6 of them or something.
yeah, that's actually a lot of
Yeah.
printers and
Yeah.
a really wide range of expertise.
Yeah, and it's good because some printers are very good at doing one thing and not at the other, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So having the resin printer is great for small detailed
Yeah.
prints and things like that, but it's also
Mhm.
its own pain.
Mhm. Do you ever, like, I guess when you're building the props for the set, do you ever like have to utilize like all of the printers together?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
like
Yeah.
you'll print something out of FDM
Yes.
and then add a part from resin and then laser etch or something
Maybe
like that.
okay, maybe less. Maybe less with incorporating like resin and FDM together. It's
Yeah.
more like I have a big job where we have to do a fairly large object or many fairly large objects, and it's more like if I have 5 printers all going at once at the same thing, I'm just going to get it done faster. Simple as that. So yes, in that sense, I would say less so combining things like resin, a detailed print with an FDM print. I could see that happening, but I haven't
tried it
really I haven't really had the need to just yet. But I could 100% see scenarios where that would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say one of the most memorable prop or set dressing you have done?
I've got a good one, but I'm not.
Oh, I'm guessing you're not allowed to.
It was from the last show that I just finished, so maybe here I won't say any names, but we did. We had a hood ornament, a really cool detailed hood ornament.
Yeah.
On a car essentially. And it was nicely designed, looked cool, and our lead actor liked it so much that he was like, "Oh, can I get one of these?" And I wish I could drop names, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll tell you off camera. How about that?
Okay.
So we ended up 3D printing him one, resin coating it, and I had a local prop shop do like a really nice metal finish on it type thing. So it looked beautiful, and then I CNC'd a nice piece of Canadian maple and put it on an acrylic stand. It just looked beautiful. So it went from being a hood ornament to our lead actor really liking it, and we made one as a crew gift for him that he got to take home. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I wish I could get one of those things.
I'll make you one if you want.
Well, I guess one more thing is I guess looking forward, you think more and more I guess things in the film industry is going to translate over more and more to 3D printing?
I could 100% see that. I'm super optimistic about what you can do with 3D printing. And one of my jobs working in the art department in film in Vancouver has been showing people what we can actually do with 3D printing. And yes, there has been a lot more demand just in the short time. You know, I've been in the business probably 8 or 9 years now. And in that short time, I've seen it progress. And I definitely know for a fact that I am more hireable because of my skills with 3D printing. And as things get bigger and more reliable, I can 100% see more set pieces, you know, because we design everything in 3D now. If we can translate, you know, what is digitally on the screen to a physical object, of course people are going to want to do that. You know, because one of the things that a lot of people do and used to do and still do is you design something in 3D and then you know there's a month of figuring out how to build the damn thing out of real parts. And now it's like, okay, no, we can imagine it in 3D and now we can physically build that thing in 3D. It's pretty amazing. And I think people are recognizing that. And I think as printers like get bigger, people just want to do bigger objects. And in film, everything's pretty big. So I think once it catches up to that, I think it's going to be a huge deal. I think we'll start seeing a lot more 3D printed parts in film.
Okay. So I guess it's definitely, I guess, pretty beneficial for students right now to actually get a feel and experience for these programs. Since a lot of industries out there, not just film, are actually transitioning over to 3D modeling, 3D design. And 3D printing.
Definitely.
So
I think students now are definitely getting those skills. And my 11-year-old niece has a 3D printer at her school and was telling me about it. So, you know, there's that too. So kids are being trained on it right away. It's becoming a standard in a lot of things other than just artwork. You know?
It's always fascinating for me when I see kids interact with this technology, because sometimes it's just, for me personally, I would always, I guess, figure out things and work things out from one point of view only. But then watching them, it just, sometimes they're like, oh, why didn't I think about it this way? They just come up with all these new, I guess they're more like pushing the technology to its limits.
Well, and when you start introducing it to that many people, or people at a young age and stuff like that, you never know what's going to happen with that. So it's pretty exciting.
So okay, we're just that's all the time we have today, and we're just gonna wrap things up. Thank you for joining us today, Nick.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Have you. So remember to subscribe with the button below, and also click the bell button so you get notifications when we release a new episode when we release it. And it's also available on Spotify and Anchor if you want to listen to just the podcast. That's everything then.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Cool.
We'll see you guys next time in the next episode then. Bye.